as much as the liberals come out, oh, we need to do something about, housing, all that stuff too. It's like, we need to put money back in our Canadians' pockets. And you just described about the insolvency, which is close to it. I think that's direct correlation to what's happening in the real estate market, because if you can barely afford groceries, you're not thinking about buying a house. So I saw a meme the other day, and it's like, trading Justin Trudeau for Mark Carney is the same as shitting your pants and then changing your t-shirt to make it better.
Welcome back to the DC Talks headquarters. This is the DC Talks podcast. I'm your co-host, Owen Osende, with the main man over here, David Chinelli. Let's get it in, man. And we have an amazing episode here for you today. Last week, the Bank of Canada reduced its overnight lending rate by 25 basis points. Yeah. And we have the right guy here to give you all the information, what you need to know about the upcoming real estate market following this news, and all the numbers to back it up. David Chinelli, how are you doing today?
All right, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So give us more insight into this rate cut, right? Because this is like the fourth one that's happened in the past 12 months. What changes are we going to see with this new news happening after this information came out from the BOC?
So interim, not much.
Not much.
So the reason why they went the 25 basis point reduction, we're down to 2% overall from last year.
Okay.
They're trying to stimulate the economy without bankrupting us. They basically hammering the dollar, right? So we also had, the tariffs were possibly coming up as of February 1st. People were scared about that. We can be aggressive. The markets really had an effect on what was going to happen. So we need some relief as Canadians from these higher interest rates. And one of the ways they do that is with the cutting interest rates. Another thing they do is about the monetary policy, whether tightening or loosening, right? So in the past, they were tightening the money, which means they're holding back funding money without injecting money into the economy. So they've stopped that. So they've stopped holding back. And it's usually followed up by now putting more money into the economy, which means inflation will increase a little bit. Yeah. But the reason why they only went with 25 basis points, we were hoping for a 50 basis point, but it just didn't make as much sense. Inflation went up to about 2.5%. Again, that's one of the markers that the Bank of Canada uses. The second thing was unemployment, went down, right? Our GDP still not there where it needs to be. And then with all the threats of the tariffs, it didn't make sense to go more than 25 basis point decrease, because ultimately we're worried about the Canadian dollar. As you decrease rates, the Canadian dollar suffers, right, when compared to the USD. So we all predicted we predicted it was maybe 50 basis points, but all the stuff started happening with the economy. The numbers started to come out. We were lucky to get a 25 basis point cut. To be honest with you, relief. We're lucky. There was some analysts thinking we weren't going to get any, but the overall underlying conditions, I guess to say, would say suggested we needed some sort of relief, and we still need. So in the short term, Owen, there hasn't been much change. We didn't see a lot of buyers come to the market. Believe it or not, we do see a lot of, we see more product hit the market. We are seeing that. That may be a factor of, people just can't afford their mortgage rates. Honestly, they're people put on there. Otherwise, I think a lot of it is a factor of the people just not purchasing, so their inventory is staying a lot longer on the market. Yeah, that's causing us to be in this perpetual, buyer's market, because, sales are down, right? The sales down even in January were down almost 8% from last year to this year, right? And we didn't have a crazy amount of sales last year. So in December, after December, I find is January, we have an increase in sales, but the average price drops compared to December, right? Well, the average price dropped again. Now we're at $1,040,000 after $1,040,000, the average sale price, but sales were also down, right? So everything's kind of not really showing. I think not really showing any effects of the previous cuts, as well as the mortgage rate cuts. The new mortgage rules. In case you weren't sure what the mortgage rules were, as of December 15th, the mortgage rules have changed now that You don't have to put 20% down for any purchases over $1 million. That benchmark has now been moved to 1.5. So if you're to purchase anything under 1.5 million, you could theoretically put, 5 or 10%, probably 10% or so, but you don't have to put the full 20% down. So it frees up a lot of cash for people to purchase. Second thing is for, amortization. We know that now they're loosening up the amortization period, which is the amount of time to have to pay for properties. In the past, they've kind of tightened it at 25-year amortization. Now they've increased it to certain people to 30, so certain purchasers to 30-year amortization. Therefore, your cash flow is better. That's all it means, right? So those effects also didn't affect our market. So when you ask, how is it really affecting us? It really hasn't. I still think that we're going to have a really good 2025, but the numbers right now are not indicating so much, right? I think a lot of people are waiting to see at the end of January if there was going to be an interest rate cut, and there is. So, but again, we're in February right now. We're first week of February. I still have listings. We're still not getting a ton of showings. We're still not. It's not.
And you're marketing these properties heavy. You have ads going out. I think I saw one of your ads actually pop up on my Instagram. Yeah. And I was like, wow, good job, DC.
Yeah, that's Elise. So Elise and I were talking about doing some different ads this year and trying to sell different ways. Like some of the, believe it or not, some of the posts that we have third parties that are posting for us. They are ads. I do pay for them. It doesn't look like an ad, but it's an ad. It's getting in there and it gets some more people. So that's the some of the creative things we've done, right? So we partnered with other people. So those ones were actually made to look like ads you're seeing because they're click here, find more information. And we put a couple of properties on there. So yeah, we've done those in the past. We were kind of like, we play around with them all the time. Yeah. But my point is that like, it's funny to see that we were hoping the market has gone up, but not so much. Like we're still seeing condos still getting hammered. Like it's still like and nothing has changed.
And a lot of people are facing like a lot of economic pressures. I mean, many Canadians here like are financially strained, with 55% describing themselves as financially paralyzed, right? And 48% unable to maintain their standard of living. And another interesting point here, when I was reading about, how this news is affecting people, 50% of Canadians are $200 away from insolvency, and non-mortgage debt balances and delinquency rates are rising. So lower mortgage rates alone are insufficient to help those struggling with debt or living paycheck to paycheck. So when you hear that information, DC, with comparing how there's all these vacancies and you're talking about people not even showing up to an open house, what are your thoughts about that when you hear those statistics?
We got to get rid of Trudeau.
Yeah, that's the first thought that comes in.
I'm sorry, guys. Like if there are people like those carbon taxes killing, it's affecting us all over. It's affecting affordability. It's literally hitting us hard. So, as much as the Liberals come out, oh, we need to do something about housing, all that stuff too. It's like we need to put money back in our Canadians' pockets. And you just described about the insolvency, which is close. And I think that's direct correlation to what's happening in the real estate market. Because if you can barely afford groceries, you're not thinking about buying a house. Maybe you may be thinking of unloading a house even at a discounted price. So yeah, we need to get rid of Trudeau faster. Like he said, he was going to step down, and we see his face everywhere. We have friends of mine in the States.
I'm about that. I'm like, what's going on here? Because he's stepping down, but he's here.
He's not stepping down the way you want, and it's still going to be the Liberal government. And here, I'm going to make a claim for you, and I hope you guys understand this. Carney's not going to be better. So people are like, well, Carney's going to be a better face. I had this conversation with some magazine people, which were going to be now publication in some magazines. And I was saying, like, don't forget, like Carney's another one that was behind Trudeau. He was part of all decisions he made. He okayed them. And also look at the character who Carney was, right? So Carney he was the head of the Bank of Canada, but he's also the head of the Bank of England, right? So he's a very smart guy, kind of knows but he also knows how to work the political game, right? He's also part of the Bilderberg Group.
The Bilderberg Group?
Bilderberg Group.
I've never heard of
the Secret Society Bilderberg Group.
Can you tell us what that is?
Google it.
Bilderberg.
I like Bilderberg Group. Oh yeah, they're quite influential. He was also seen on Epstein's Island. He didn't die. Is he he's an elite. He's an elite.
He's a young global leader, as they call him on Charles Schwab.
Why don't you Google when I talk about who the Bilderberg Group? Yes. So the funny thing is like he was also supposed to be part of Trudeau's cabinet, right? But his people on the talking to his ear are like, listen, like Trudeau's going to be out. He's not favored in people, so maybe distance yourself. But they had very similar views. So I saw a meme the other day, and it's like trading Justin Trudeau for Mark Carney is the same as shitting your pants and then changing your t-shirt to make it better. They're just changing masks. So it's not going to be better. So I hate to say, until the political party, until we get the Liberals out, until we have, I don't even care at this point who, if it's even Jagmeet Singh, I'm sorry. I'm like, I know they spend, I'm like, but anything would be better than we currently have, because it is literally bankrupting most people. So Carney even said, he goes, if I get elected, I will, as a head, I will pause the carbon tax for a certain period of time until the election. But after the election, I'm going to go back and I'm going to tax more to the corporations. Well, we don't get taxed as individuals now. We get taxed through the corporations. That's the money. So he's basically saying, I'll pause it for now. And then all the money we lost from during that, I'm going to get it more back plus more. So we are now struggling in this economy. And now you're going to tax us more? And now you have the threat of the tariffs, which I don't think is going to be that big of a deal, to be honest with you. But yeah, you have all these threats, and like, so it's just more and more like, what more do Canadians take? So yeah, like my political stance on this, as most entrepreneurs have, get the Liberals out. We need to know. Like, I don't know anybody who supports anything.
Well,
and the funny thing is, the shell game moving one of their faces to another is not going to help our economic situation. But look at the numbers, Owen. Like, the numbers show us here at the real estate market how we're getting hammered. Average sale price was only up 1.5%. It's still at $1,040,000. We're still, that's below the average we've had at 1.1. And it was only because January last year was so bad, because it was one of the worst markets we've had in 20 years. That's not that much of an improvement. But you also have active listings up 70%, new listings up 48.6%. There's people not buying because they can't afford it. Those are the numbers you got to look at, not at the average sale price, because at any average sale price, a bump up is like, and it's only 1%. We're not talking gangbusters here. The average sale price increase should be 6.7%. We're well below the 30-year average. And the amount of sales, we're down to like 7.9% less sales. All those numbers to me aren't good, bud.
So with the increase in inventory going out, so this means a lot of people are selling their houses.
Well, they're putting them on the market.
Putting them on the market.
Yeah.
So there's one thing by putting them on the market, and then there's actually selling.
Yeah.
And are these people looking to sell to leave the GTA, or are they selling to leave and be renters?
I think it's all of it, right? I think it's all of it. I know I have clients coming, they're moving to the States. I've already had one. They just left to Florida.
We saw
5 days ago.
Our buddy.
Yeah, Mike.
Valley Media.
Yeah, 20 Valley Media. They moved to Florida. That's been the works. They've been trying to get their visa for 2 years, so we've been trying to work out. They finally got Nadia finally got her visa and was able to move. We sold. They left January 31st. I have another friend of mine. His name's John. He lives in Barrie. We're gonna have to sell his place in Barrie. He's just getting all his visas and everything. He was living in 6 months in Florida.
Like from America.
Oh yeah, like they're all going to Florida. So it just makes sense, right? And if you think about it, like there's a lot of people doing that. I think we had like, was it 2 years ago? We had an exodus of 450,000 people leave Canada. And those are all like entrepreneurs. These are the good people that we want to keep in here. Those are the people that are building the business, the innovators, bringing the money in, right? Yeah. And one of the reasons why I would hope that Poilievre kind of gets in, if he's able to do it, one of the things he said he can do is like lower our income tax. Because right now, and I think Charlie Kirk talked about this, and he's like, when you look at all countries, and somebody asked him like, well, what about the Scandinavian countries? And they have great healthcare. And he's like, so the question he has is like, well, how many billionaires are in those Scandinavian countries? Like, sure, they might have good healthcare, and they have a hybrid, by the way.
Maybe like 5.
No, they don't have any billionaires in those Scandinavian countries, because they're all going. Most of them are in areas where the income tax is less than 35%. When you're getting taxed at 52%, there's no incentive. And there's no incentive to have them, to live in those properties, right? Anyway, long story short, I know. I think if we get Poilievre in there, it helps change the landscape. If he's able to do some of the stuff he talks about.
You mentioned one thing that was interesting in regards to the tariffs, and Trump has been agonizing about how the border is not being protected. There's a lot of fentanyl coming in. There's everything, and he's hammering it down. And Trudeau had an opportunity to take care of this. And Trump has been asking about this, like, hey, just take care of this. We're not going to impose any tariffs on you and Mexico. But Trudeau is just like, you're not scaring me. I'm still going to do whatever I want to do. Until recently, he just came back and he's like, okay, actually, as much as I hate Trudeau, I got to give him credit. he actually stood up and he was like, okay, let's think about Canada first. And we've never had that mentality of actually having Canadian pride since pre-pandemic. You know, waving a Canadian flag was seen as you're being right-wing, you're being MAGA, you're being whatever. Now you're seeing buy Canada first at
I went to the Raptor game and I was like, this is happening all over the place.
wasn't-
They're booing the U.S. national anthem.
I actually don't like that.
I don't like that either.
It's so
but
disrespectful.
people, it is very disrespectful.
You know
But
what I'm
people are like, they're pissed.
But when that whole tariff rhetoric started, and you were looking at your business and you're looking at the economic climate with everything that's going on with the things that are being listed, nothing is happening, no one's buying anything. How did you conceptualize that information with, okay, if this happens, 25%, for the people who don't know about how real estate impacts those tariffs, can you give us an insight of how that would...
How does the 25% tariff affect real estate?
Real estate, exactly.
It's indirect.
It's indirect?
I wouldn't say it's direct unless you're looking at materials coming in from the US, which I don't know how many, like, to be personal, I don't build houses. So you'd have to talk to a builder what actually affects those price points. But it's mostly indirect stuff. It's like kind of like the carbon tax. So it's indirect affecting us with our dollar, right? So we're talking about, we're not sure how many goods you consume in a day come from the US market, right? So, and if you're selling a resale home, it doesn't affect you unless it affects your dollar, right? So your disposable income, that's how it affects you, right? In reality, you know, it also affects the economy, right? So think about if the tariffs, it's all indirect. If the tariffs took effect and it's affecting like a large part of the population, which was using U.S. products, and all of a sudden they can't afford the labor costs, and all of a sudden they're going to start to let people go. Then then there's going to be unemployment, which means it's going to affect. So see how it's indirect.
Yeah.
It's not like builders right now, builders, especially pre-construction, there's not a lot of pre-construction going on or like happening. All the ones that are projects out there are already happening. They're hopefully they've already bought all their materials, and it's not like we're getting labor force coming from the US. So you see how this is indirect, right?
And with it impacting the goods that we buy, 25%. So that even correlates to people not even thinking about getting into real estate at all. So now it goes below like, okay, why am I even thinking about real estate when I got to think about the tariffs coming in, and it's just not a priority anymore. And what I want to know is like, how does that affect you as a realtor, as a business, and everything that you got going on? Are you readjusting in the way that you're talking to your clients? Okay, maybe we need to lower the price. Maybe we need to do this. How do you approach it when all this negative?
Yeah, I've had a couple of clients that are worried. They're supposed to be putting their homes up for sale. Like we have a lot of numbers coming up, especially March break area, and I was like, well, let's just see what happens. It takes effect before we start pressing the panic button. Right. I think everyone, like the media does that too. They want you to press the panic button saying the sky's falling, et cetera. Right. But we don't really, like I said, it's all indirect. We don't really know how it affects us. Right. We don't know. So and a lot of my clients are buying and selling in the same market. So a lot of them, I talk to them, I said, listen, you're buying and selling the same market. You're kind of washing it out. Like if you sell first, it's probably a better option. That's kind of we're talking first, because now it's going to be harder to sell because have you seen the numbers have changed, the affordability is down. So if we get to a certain price point, we could sell, then we buy. So that has definitely changed as in the past. When the market's completely hot, you're good, or you're in a price point, even though you know it's going to sell, then then you're kind of okay to buy first, where now the mentality's totally changed. Most of my clients, it's kind of all walking them off the ledge. It's kind of like, okay, well, strategy hasn't changed. You're not forced to be, like to sell. You're not like, it's not like you're giving anything away.
Choice.
You have a choice.
Yeah.
So you remind them that stuff too. And it's like, things are going to come and go. Like hopefully, like there was a little bit of a reprieve for the 30 days with the tariffs. Hopefully in the next 30 days, something will come around that we won't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But you also got to remember, right? Why did those 30, the tariffs were brought about not because of the amount of people coming into the U.S., right? Because if there was like something like 1.5 million coming in from Mexico, people coming in, and Canada was like 126,000 illegals. So it's less than like 1%. And I was watching this other realtor and talks about it, and he's like, the reason why Trump is pushing back is because it's personal. So what happened when Trump lost the last election, Trudeau and they were making fun of him, and they're saying, he shouldn't be. And they were directly attacking his
so
character.
smug about it.
And that was it, right?
So Trump is feeling some type of
And
way
even
about
after he won the last election,
Yeah.
you know, you saw what Trudeau's announcement.
It's like they didn't let a woman win the.
And it's like, no, don't let the right person for the job win. It should have been a woman. It was like, of course he's going to take offense at it. He's like, oh, you want to be like that? You're still continuing to do
He's
it,
like, I'm
right?
gonna stick it to you.
You're going to stick it. So he's literally sticking it to Canada because of the actions of what the person's like, of what he said. Like, of course, you can only push a bully or push somebody so far. And let's be honest, like Trump is a bully. Like he can be a bully when he wants to be. Like I think we were talking with a broker of record had this story, and he's like, I think he was talking to Colombians, and he's like, hey, "Come get your Colombians," and they're like, "We're not gonna come. We're not coming." He's like, "Okay, all right, we're gonna put all these tariffs on you." And he's like, "Oh no,
It's like, we'll send you a plane.
Yeah, we'll send you a plane." Within 18 minutes, there was a plane on the air. It was like, it was so funny, right?
So funny.
It was like, and it's like, the thing is like he can be like, I don't know if but he's playing from a power of strength, and then he can do that, right? So. At this point, I think people need to take notice now of the U.S. He's trying to get back the power because, listen, under all the other administrations, I don't think the U.S. was seen as strong, right?
Yeah, they were looking weak.
They were looking weak. And hopefully, maybe Canada will have some of that power fall down to them if we get the leaders we need to get into the positions we need to get into. And maybe, hopefully, Canada will look and say, like, well, as much as you may not like the U.S. or Trump, but do you see what like somebody that is strong-willed and has a power, knows how to run a country like a business? You see how he is running a country. Again, you don't have to agree with it. And I know my wife and I argue about this time. Listen, I don't think Trump is a good man. I don't think he's a good person inside. I don't think so. And we can talk about whatever we want. Like, you know, now he's had this resurgence thinking he's like, you know, I was saved by God, but the bullet, all this stuff too. I don't know if that's just an act he's putting on or because back and forth. We don't know, right? But he's not somebody I would say for moral, as a moral compass, I would tell somebody to believe in, right? He's not that. I've said this over and over again. Is he a good man? I still think he's better than Harris by all stretch of the imagination, like any kind of stretch of the imagination. Well, for the job as a person, even as a person, I knew Harris wasn't the right person. But look what he's done in a short period of time. The wars are all stopping. People are taking notice of that stuff too. Again, you may not like the individual, but if you're American right now,
he's putting you first.
Yeah. He's putting you first. And you have to take some pride in that too. And we don't have that in Canada. We still don't have the pride. The one time the Canadians tried to push back against the government because of something they didn't believe in, you know, they got their bank accounts frozen, which is unconstitutional. We got called, I wasn't part of the truckers, but they called
the convoy.
Yeah, the convoy. They called racist. They got called names and everything. So my point is, how are the numbers affecting those questions? Well, the numbers are in the right here. Like you can see right here.
And it's safe to say with the 25 basis points, it hasn't really affected much, and it's still the same economy.
That's right.
You talk a lot, you advocate a lot for people getting into the market, buying into the market. But as I've kind of shown you, like with the economic pressures a lot of people are facing, it's a little bit challenging for them. What would your advice be to those people who want to get in there, but they're feeling like the chokehold of everything, but they still want to buy a home and they still want to make that into their future? Do you advocate for them to like leave the city, leave the GTA?
Why do you always want people leaving the city?
Well, I'm not leaving the city, but
here's the thing with Toronto.
I'm just advocating for, look, if you want ownership, like.
So the good thing about Toronto is
leave the city.
It doesn't fluctuate. It's not volatile. And it's very hard when you leave the city to come back.
That is facts. Yeah.
It's facts.
Hard. It's hard.
So sure, you might get something that's cheaper outside the GTA, right? But it's if you lived in Toronto, outside the GTA, or even outside of Toronto, I should say. But it is harder to come back, right? Because your value of your property doesn't increase on a consistent basis, and it is harder to sell. That's the fact. When the market is hot, the Toronto market doesn't go crazy busy. Like it doesn't go through the roof because, we have more mature in the sense that it's a more mature market here. Even during the pandemic when the prices were crazy, it wasn't Toronto proper that was going gangbusters, right? There were low amounts of inventory. I remember Brampton was one of those ones, and Ajax and some areas of Halton were going insanely high. Like you had the 1 week's worth of inventory. Like you couldn't even put a sign on that had multiple offers. But then when the market dropped, those ones you couldn't sell. So those markets are very volatile. So I would just caution those somebody is like, well, why are you leaving Toronto? If it's for monetary things, it's like you need to do what you need to do. But we always just say, it is harder to move back, right? But there are other areas which are a little bit safer, I would say. And that's like Mississauga's another one. Like it's a good market. It's a mature market. Areas of Vaughan too, as well. Like, in Woodbridge and stuff, there's some good markets there too. So I'm not just saying just Toronto proper, but if you are in Toronto and wanted to go out to like say, to Timmins or something like that too, then the value of the Timmins property is not going to come to the same level as you're here. So you may have to do it. That's fine. But our conversation is like, okay, this is what statistically we'd show. We'll show the numbers and say like, okay, here's where the average price was and here's where we're going. Right. And I also think that there's a lot of potential, like there's opportunity still to buy in Toronto. So I'm looking at the numbers here. So we're looking just at the 416, the detached houses between last year and this year. Right. So even though the market went up 1.5, like overall in the GTA, price of the detached only went up 1%. Like it wasn't gangbusters, right? It's still a market which is still affordable, I guess, in the sense you call it affordable. It's not like it's going crazy. A semi-detached dropped 3.7%. Where you're seeing values now is the lower price, more of a detached, lower price freehold properties, which is under that 1.5 mark, and that's why the townhouses have been up 5%. So that's what's bringing up the average in Toronto is townhomes, because they are more affordable. So sometimes I'll ask a client and say, okay, if you want to be close to home, you want these conveniences, maybe downgrade. Maybe stay in Toronto, go from a detached home and try to see if can you survive. Because there are some really nice executive townhomes out there that are like half the price, and in the same areas, right? So there's options. I just want to make sure you're doing it for the right thing, right reasons, right? It's not, I'm hopefully an advisor, not just somebody who's trying to get deals done, right? Because, I always say this, I don't want to be just your realtor. I want to be your kid's realtor. I want to be your parents' realtor. I want to be like more of a family setting, so you understand you can trust me. Yeah. And it's not just a pat my dollar, my pocket.
Amazing. That was a great episode, DC. You're someone who's been able to, as we work towards wrapping up, you're someone who's been able to take tough times and make something out of it. And you've always risen to the occasion. What advice would you give to realtors in this position that they're in, with all the factors, all the numbers you provided, and how they can continue staying in the business? They're not leaving the real estate market and pursuing other opportunities, because we're seeing a lot of people leaving the industry.
Yeah. And honestly, we need a lot of realtors to leave, in a sense. I hate saying it that way, but we've had people join our industry because they thought it was easy money, and it's not easy, right? Especially like you really earn your stripes in years like this, because you have to be able to navigate. So one of the things I would say to the realtors, and I've brought in other people on the team lately as a mentorship. I've been mentoring them. I call it a loose team because they're not technically a team. And I showed them my numbers from last year, and I said, well, how was I able to achieve this? They see what I do. We meet here on Tuesdays. It's consistency.
Showing up every day, but doing the same things over and over again. Not allowing the market to affect, your postings, your open houses, like your mentality, getting to your database, talking to people, not wavering from believing in your product that you sell. But it's consistency, doing the things you need to do, the small things. That's what makes it too long, right? Like if you watch my Instagram, you see that I'm constantly putting out content. I'm constantly pushing my properties. I'm trying to explain, educate people, right? Trying to help them make the right moves. So that's something we can do consistent. So if you're not doing something consistent, then you only have yourself to blame. It's 1% better every day.
Yeah. But you know what, Owen, even if you do the same thing you did yesterday, and it's just a little bit, obviously you're going to get better at it, right? I know I said 1%, but just do it. Honestly, we've had a bunch of real estate coaches say, and I think Tom Ferry said the best way, the market's going to market. You just got to find your leads. I had Rob Vivian, another coach, he said the same thing. He's like, what do you care what the market's happening? People need to buy and sell. It's your job to find those leads and help them. It's your job to find the people that need to be helped. That's your job.
Would you say that's the Mamba mentality for real estate agents, is to do that every day? And
every day.
Yeah.
Find somebody to help.
Yeah.
Find somebody to help.
Yes. DC Mamba out. And then we have it. You already know the rate cut announcement came out. Again, if you want to find out more information about this, and also if you're in a position where you're looking to buy and you need more information, schedule a consultation, DC.
We can talk. We have a discovery call. Yeah. We do buyer consultations, seller consultations. It's better to what I do is when we sit down, we don't just, if you're a buyer, you don't just start saying, well, can you afford it, and just jump into the house. You need to know hidden costs, things that are involved. What's the purchase property? What's the purchase method? How can we how can we help you and enjoy the process? And it's the same thing on the sell side, right? Like it's obviously a little bit different. We're going to your property, but yeah, it's a consultation. We can do a 15-minute discovery call about what your needs are and if we can help.
Amazing. We'll see you next week for a brand new episode. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.
Peace.